Lauded for both a seductive atmosphere and a distinctive menu, the establishment is the focus of this week's Food Friday, and we'd like to welcome Executive Chef Matt Cantor. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. How y'all doing today?
Doing great. I've heard wonderful things about the establishment.
Well, we were just excited to be back after a 14-month drug out hiatus, so we're thrilled to be back.
We're so glad to see the establishment back open again. Walk us through the menu if you could. What would you say is the philosophy behind your menu?
We try to do things, obviously, those buzzwords that we all have come to know over the last decade or so, seasonality and the freshness and all those things, but really just taking as few ingredients as possible to the plate and having them end up being perfectly balanced. We don't focus too much on overcomplicating things. None of our dishes have more than a handful of ingredients at any given time. So really just balance between those taste buds that we all try and balance textures, balance flavors between sweet, salty, umami, bitterness. So that's pretty much it.
And in any way, technique to exalt certain flavors within the dish to make it a little bit more pronounced in certain cases.
Absolutely. And we, for instance, try to employ different techniques. Seafood is our primary focus here. Yeah. So if we're pan-searing or butter basting one fish, then the other fish we might poach in olive oil, or we might poach in a court bouillon in a poaching broth, or we might cook on papillote. We just try to give the guest a different experience for whatever cooking technique for that fish. Everybody in Charleston knows about wreckfish, and then when out of towners come here, I've never heard of wreckfish. Well, it's really uniquely Charleston fish, and we think it lends itself to like a slower cooking method because it tends to be a really firm fish. On the other hand, triggerfish is a local fish too that we'll saute very, very briefly in just a little bit of butter. So it's just making sure that we're not overthinking and making sure we're not overdoing it. And
using those handful ingredients, you say seasonality, also locality would be another major part of the vernacular, I think, with a lot of restaurants here, because it's important to gather things that are close by.
No question. And summertime for that in the South, in South Carolina, is the perfect representation. We have tomatoes, we have cantaloupe, we have different kinds of stone fruits. North Carolina tomatoes are coming in right now from the mountains. All those kinds of things. We try to source as best as we can from everything local. Yeah. That being said, like for instance, we're starting a new scallop dish on our menu tonight. Scallops don't come from the Southeast, so we buy them from Massachusetts or Maine. But that's where the sustainability thing comes in. I want to make sure that whatever purveyor or whatever scallop monger that we're buying these ingredients from is being respectful and being a good shepherd for the environment.
Certainly. Well, your dishes look beautiful, for one thing. The colors, like you say, the textures, but each dish really does whet the appetite when you look at it. Do you have any specialties on the menu now that you highly recommend, and how often do you change your menu?
We really change the menu, both adding and subtracting dishes pretty often, a couple times a week. Thursdays are a fun day for us because we try and get a handful of new things pushed out for the weekend. Typically on Fridays and Saturdays, we see a more balanced dining crowd. During the week is almost exclusively local, which we love. Yes. And then some travelers and tourists will come in for the weekend, so we try and roll out a new experience. Right now, honestly, I'm getting these cantaloupes from Grove Food Carolina, which my fellow chefs in this city all know about Grove Food Carolina. They do a great job for it. And these cantaloupes are like candy. And
when you mix it with something salty,
we pair them with a salty cured meat, a salami from Oregon. And it's beautiful. It's striking to look at, and it's got that sweet and salty and a little bit fatty kind of balance going on.
That's right. That sounds so delicious. But of course, with this fabulous menu, you have to wash it down with something refreshing. And that's what we're going to be talking about next after the break. We're going to visit with Ryan Wise, who's their bar manager at the establishment. We're going to do that in 2 minutes. Great to talk to you, Chef.
Likewise. We'll see you soon.
We're back after this. And we are back on this Food Friday with the establishment, and we're now joined by Ryan Wise. He is bar manager there, and we just heard about your fantastic menu. But of course, people come sometimes just for the tipple. So tell us about what some of your specialties are there.
Well, we have a whole menu of specialty cocktails. So they pretty much cover all the base spirits, you know, from vodka to whiskey to gin to rum, even mezcal thrown in there. So
and you've also got a nice wine list too.
100%. Yeah, we have a wine cellar, a 3,000 bottle wine cellar.
Goodness
so we
gracious.
have a range of wines.
So you're wanting for nothing if you're a wine lover. What would you say, what cocktails have you recently added to the menu that you're particularly proud of?
One particular called the Gothic, and it is a blackberry shrub that I make, and it complements a spiced rum. We also throw in a little bit of a velvet falernum in there, which is sort of an Italian sweet liqueur, and fresh lemon juice, a little bit of rhubarb bitters just to sort of balance it out at the finish.
That's great.
It's really a treat.
That's wonderful. And so do a lot of people just come, sit at the bar, have a little snack, a nice cocktail? That sounds like kind of a regular practice at the establishment.
It's quite often. We have a video wall here that is 9 screens, all talking to each other and presenting landscapes. We've got some underwater stuff. We've got some waterfalls, and it's constantly changing. And people were saying, you know, I just came in for a drink. 3 hours later, I just can't take my eyes off the screen and the ambiance.
It's almost hypnotizing what you've done to the people.
Yeah.
they're mesmerized not only by the cocktail, but by what they see on the wall.
100%, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Ryan, that sounds fantastic. Well, congratulations again to your reopening after being shut down because of the pandemic. We're so glad to see these businesses coming back and hosting, and by the sounds of it, sometimes a little difficult to get a reservation. So yeah, that's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We're back after this.